Hey everybody, Arturo Johnson here, and in today's video, I just wanted to talk about LLC versus sole proprietor and which one is the best for you. So in this video, I'm just going to break down a very high level version of which one of these is best for you, which one you should pick, and then from there, you can make an informed decision. So first and foremost, this is a disclaimer that this is not tax advice, and I am not a tax professional. This is general business advice. So if you have any questions after watching this, please consult with your local tax advisor with the most up-to-date information that can advise you on business entities. So, what is a sole proprietorship? Well, sole proprietorship is what you are as a default when you start a business, whether you are registered or not. Once you start to offer a product or service, you are automatically a sole proprietor. So if you're selling insurance, if you're selling online products, if you're selling Cutco knives, AT&T, any kind of commission-based things, you are considered a sole proprietor or 1099. And so the biggest difference is that an LLC has to file its own separate tax return because it is a separate entity from you. And so what happens is once you establish an LLC, there's now this separation between you and the business. And we call this the corporate veil. And so a lot of times people will run as a sole proprietor until they get to a certain level, and then they'll establish an LLC for reasons which I'll get into further in this video, and the tax benefits from that. And so there are some pros and cons, and so we'll get right into those. So, which one is best for you? Well, you should stick with being a sole proprietor until you're making about $5,000 per month or $60,000 per year, simply because of the expenses that come and incur with setting up an LLC, the fees, and the cost of hiring a CPA. So when I was a sole proprietor, when I first started out my business, I got up to about $5,000, $6,000 per month. And that's when I quit waiting tables and doing insurance. And that's when I went all in and I set up my LLC because I wanted to have my structures together and have a good base right in the beginning with my business. And I just wanted to make sure that I wasn't a red flag for the IRS to be audited. And so now, as an LLC, you are now owner and a member, which is called member managed. And this is where you own the business, but also you are a person who is a member of this limited liability corporation. And so some of these things are very high level and simple, but I just want to break it down to you really easy. And so what this does is this allows you to avoid something called piercing the corporate veil, which removes your personal liability in the event of a lawsuit. And so you'll see this a lot of times when successful people try to get sued. What they're suing is the asset or the corporation and not the person, right? So for example, if you were to sue Bill Gates, well, Bill Gates actually doesn't have any money. All his money is in his funds, his charities, and his corporations. And so if you were to sue him, he, quote unquote, on paper doesn't have any money. He's broke because all of his monies are in his entities, right? And he has higher level structures that I'm not getting in for the purposes of keeping this video pretty simple. But again, when you have this entity, it separates you from the business, which allows this thing called not being able to pierce the corporate veil. So in the event that something were to happen, you personally couldn't lose it all, or the business couldn't lose it all. And it's just like a legal loophole to protect you or the asset, which is the business. So let's just look at an example here. So we got a sole proprietor and they have an annual profit of $70,000 and income of $80,000, which leaves expenses of $10,000. And so the federal tax bracket of 12%, which would equal $8.4K. And then there's a self-employment tax of 15.3, which then brings that total to $10,710, which means that there's a federal tax of $19.10. So As an LLC, the annual profit of 70,000 with the income of 80,000, which leaves the expenses of 10,000, excuse me, with 35 salary taxed at 27.3%, which is a 9.5K. And so what this does is when you're an LLC, you can actually make yourself as a W-2 employee if you want, and then you can avoid some of these taxes and wages. And so with that 12% and the 15.3 FICA that's taken out, you can also take out a $35,000 distribution that is only taxed at 12%, which is 4.2K. And so you can see here that you're dividing the taxed salary, and then you can take a distribution, right? Because you have to, with an LLC, you have to pay yourself a salary that is deemed reasonable. And so that's what we're doing here with that 70,000, right? And so what that allows you to do is have some savings. And so the total federal tax is $13,755 with a total tax savings of about $5,355. And so you can see here that there are some benefits of having an LLC as opposed to a sole proprietorship. And a couple of things that I didn't mention in here, but there's also like the cost of setting it up, the annual renewal. You also have to maybe hire a CPA because you have to file a separate a tax filing. But again, you can see the benefits. And so hopefully this was helpful, just some general information to see which one is the best fit for you, either a sole proprietor or an LLC. So if you enjoyed this video, go ahead and comment below and let me know if you're a sole proprietor or an LLC, and we'll see you in the next video.